Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Fins Nation. I am your host, Louis Sung. I am joined by Drew Gier of the Rockpile Report. He is back, and we're going behind enemy lines once again to discuss what is finally the end of the regular season. The Miami Dolphins are going to be facing the Buffalo Bills for their rematch. All the way back in Week 3, Buffalo absolutely kicked Miami's teeth in Buffalo, and now they're coming down here to Miami and Hard Rock Stadium to see if we can pull off another miracle like we did last season. Mr. Drew, how are you, sir?
I'm good. In fact, it's funny. I'm a bourbon guy myself, but I'm sitting here drinking a glass of tequila tonight because I don't know. Thinking about this Miami game, I'm thinking warm vibes. I don't know. It's good. I'm in a weird place, and I'm sure you are too, in terms of how you feel about this game, right?
Yeah, very much so, yes. And we're going to get into all of that because there's plenty to say right now. But before that, as always, we want to mention that this show is brought to you by our friends over at PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is a revolutionary fantasy platform where you can now pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues, whether that is the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, one of each. It's up to you to decide. Just choose whether your chosen player will get more or less in their projected stat. They give you free squares, special Taco Tuesday promos, Flex Friday specials where you can get your money back if you lose or multiply the amount of money you can normally win. So with offers like that, it's hard to justify not signing up if you're any kind of a fantasy sports fan. So use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. Use promo code 5, FIVE, go to prizepicks.com, deposit your $100, and let PrizePicks give you $100 of their dollars for you to play with and get started winning today. And this show is also affiliate sponsored by My Nintendo Store. So My Nintendo Store currently has 2 awesome options for you to check out. Super Mario Bros. Wonder and Super Mario Bros. RPG. They are both amazing games that are out right now. The remake of Super Mario RPG has been just reviewed by both critics and gamers alike. Everybody loves it. Go check it out. Use the links in the description below this video in order to make your purchase, and you will be receiving bonus items upon making that purchase. So again, the links in the description are below. Make sure you go ahead and buy that using that link. My Nintendo Store, your best and easiest way to the world of Nintendo. All right, Drew. So here we go. The final game of the regular season, and everything is on the line. Honestly, in many ways, it's kind of a weird mix because in reality, if we're being just pure facts, right? If we're just talking about the facts and nothing else, no emotional attachment, no nothing. This game means more to Buffalo than it does to Miami because Buffalo is in a situation where if they lose this game against Miami, there's a very distinct possibility that they're not going to make the playoffs, or is that just a done deal? They don't win, they're not in.
I mean, that's it. And so Josh Allen has been saying for weeks now that I think it was back in the aftermath of the Kansas City win. He said every game is a playoff game now. Every single game that we play is a playoff game. And since they kind of came out of the bye week with that mentality, they've been on a hot streak. Now, they've played some close games against some teams that I think most people, everyone thought that our win over the Cowboys was amazing. And then you watch what we did against the Chargers. Everyone wanted to reel back all the hot takery about how great the Bills were. And then they play what looks like a masterclass on defense against the New England Patriots, but their offense looks off. And so now nobody knows what to make of this team. But the one thing you can say is that in the month of December, for as much as, I mean, myself included, some Bills fans may be getting tired of Sean McDermott, his win percentage over the last 3 years in the month of December is incredible. The man, home, away, as long as he's got Josh Allen, regardless of what Josh Allen's health is, he wins a lot of football games. So there's this feeling that you back this team into a corner, they're really good at answering that, and it's almost desperation that makes them a better football team. So it's that dynamic we're all kind of banking on heading into this.
Because isn't that like a very distinct contrast between when we first spoke back in week 3, talking about how when Josh Allen gets into a hole, he starts to play hero ball, and that's when things start to go sour. Does that just like reverse itself in December?
Well, it's this weird thing of usually by that point in the season, when he plays hero ball, he now knows who he can trust. He now knows what he can and can't get away with. He's usually nursing some kind of an injury. So it does limit some of the nonsense that he tries to pull. And so in that way, like I was joking with some people, other Bills fans today, and I said to them, how many people in this group chat right now would be more comfortable if we were to go into the fourth quarter of Sunday's game with the Bills down 10 than up 10? And there's a reason for that. When you look at the game-winning drives that Josh has led, when you look at what it is, like our defense is pretty good, but the games that especially this season, that we've relied on our defense to be the thing that closes out a game, we usually find someone to falter and lose that game. Some of it is just the overwhelming pragmaticism of our head coach, who is our defensive play caller, who when he feels like he has the game in hand, he almost gets gun shy. He stops wanting to be aggressive, and he just is desperate to get – he makes safe play calls with his defense because he just wants to get the game in the garage. And unfortunately, in games like the Eagles game, it cost us dearly because he adopted a soft mindset, and it came back to bite us in the ass repeatedly over the stretch that saw us lose our lead and ultimately lose the game. Whereas in games where we're trailing, now the defense doesn't have to do anything. In fact, the defense is more aggressive because they're trying to force turnovers and make game-changing plays, which I think if you've noticed over the last few weeks, Ed Oliver is making them. Rasul Douglas, AFC Defensive Player of the Week, is making game-changing plays. He's got 6 or 7 turnovers in however many games he's been here. You see, Teron Johnson is just waiting for turnovers. Our safeties they've been quiet this year, but generally speaking, they're pretty good at turnovers or at least being sound in terms of coverage. They're at their best when the team has to be desperate, which is how we find ourselves here. We've had to be desperate over the last month, where I think Miami had the benefit of a multi-game lead in the divisional race, and I think it made you guys kind of, I don't want to say soft, but I think it made you a little soft. Can I say that?
I mean, I've been saying for the past couple of shows now that I think the Miami Dolphins as a whole, this is the fatal flaw in their DNA in my mind, is that this team is built entirely on finesse. This team is not what is called a physical football team. This team is based on timing, it's based on anticipation, it's based on excruciating detail to the nth degree. And when it's working, it's working. You can't stop it when it's working. But when it's not working, it's very difficult to get those gears spinning properly because you don't have a whole lot of time to fix the problems. It's basically you either got it right the first time or you're going to be struggling the entire rest of the game. That's what I've observed about the Miami Dolphins.
Well, a perfect way to spin this is look at what happened in our late season matchup last year. You go back and you think about that game and you think to yourself, Miami had the lead. Late in the fourth quarter, Miami had a lead. But what happened was desperation. Josh Allen took the game over late. Now, if you tack on 5 more minutes to that clock in that game, Miami probably shakes off what were 2 bad drives to end the game. They put on a scoring drive of their own, and they maybe come back and win it. But we'll never know because the Bills got the luxury of having the most aggressive football player on the field, make the biggest plays, the biggest moments. We were able to run the clock out and kick a game-winning field goal. Everyone goes home. And the rest is history. And that's where I think our teams differ so much, is that your team is very system-driven, whereas our team doesn't really know. Like, we fired our offensive coordinator in the middle of the year. This team's systems aren't what powers it. It's the players, and it's the toughness, and it's the mentality that each of them brings to their position. That's the thing that's powering us during this win streak. So there's a lot of ways where I look at coaching and I say to myself, that's probably like, because realistically, you guys have a better scheme. Hands down. If we had your offensive scheme, I would kill for what you guys have schematically on offense. It's more creative. The motion has so much more to it. It's so much more effective at manipulating linebackers, manipulating safeties. Our offense is trying to be that. Joe Brady has done a pretty good job since he came in the middle of the season. At the same time, defensively, I think we have you guys beat by a mile because Sean McDermott has proven that this New England game, 4 turnovers in the early going of the game. Now, some of that's Bailey Zappi's fault, and let's face it, he's no prize. But, I mean, picking up Bailey Zappi, you can only brag about that so loud.
I mean, you could argue the same about Mac Jones. Like that wouldn't do much either. So Tom Brady's not coming off the bench.
No, But so I guess my point is that when I look at what the Dolphins are currently doing schematically on defense, and then I look at the talent you have on hand versus the talent we have, that's where we have an advantage. And then I have to look past the coaching, and that's when you look at the players themselves, and I say, we've got enough guys who, if push comes to shove, can freelance their way to something, which we've seen play out, like I just said. I feel like each team has a certain set of advantages. It's going to be interesting to see which one matters the most in this game.
Well, my observation has been that Miami struggles against teams that are more physical, like yours, which is why I'm concerned about this game for Miami. So this is why I say, like, when we talk about what it means factually speaking, yes, this game means more to Buffalo than it does to Miami, because if Buffalo wins this game, they're in the playoffs and then they win the division. If they lose, they're out of the playoffs. Miami, on the other hand, yes, if they win this game, they win the division. But regardless of what happens, we're already in the playoffs. So this is where, but that's where the facts, though, that's where the facts stop. Now, everything at this point is all emotionally based. Because right now, Miami Dolphins fandom is in a very precarious situation, emotionally speaking. Yes. Because whereas Buffalo, I feel like, is very much, I don't know, at peace in a way with, I don't know. You guys are more confident in yourselves than Miami is. How about that?
Here's what I'll say. As a guy who was sitting in our studio cursing our coach and literally calling him John Fox 2.0, saying he was the thing that was holding us back from ever winning a Super Bowl. And I still, to a certain percentage, might feel that way. I think that this game is kind of a referendum on Sean McDermott. That's why there's a lot of us who are watching with just kind of, we're taking a measured approach. This win streak going into the bye week, there was a lot of us who were looking at this going, this guy is the reason we haven't accomplished the ultimate goal. He's built a team, he's built a culture, but he can't coach his way out of a hole. He can't outcoach the great offensive minds that exist in football, which is why we always find ourselves in this position. So we need to move on. Now that we have this structure built, let's capitalize on it with the coach who can. And then he goes on this win streak, and some of the heat has died down. Not in my mind. In my mind, I'm sitting here now watching this game saying to myself, if you don't make the playoffs this year and it comes because you lost to Mike McDaniels, then I need to, if I'm the owner of the team, now it won't happen, but I need to seriously consider what else do I have to do to get by? Because now it just looks like Sean McDermott's life is getting harder. Every year since 2020, he's been backsliding as far as what he's able to accomplish in the postseason. I think if you miss the playoffs altogether, that's kind of a referendum on what's happening here. But to digress, you talk about facts. Facts are interesting because obviously statistics can be twisted to say a lot of things. But one thing I pointed out on our thing, and I actually tweeted out a clip of it over on our Twitter handle, over at Rockpile Report on Twitter. If your listeners want to go check it out, it's a 2-minute clip of me just talking about statistics in the deep passing game of Miami. That was the thing. That was the thing that set the league on fire to start the season. It was the reason you guys were the highest scoring offense in football. I mean, your rushing attack doesn't hurt, but the reason your rushing attack was working so well is because everyone was scared to crowd the box. Your running backs were facing some of the lightest boxes in the entire NFL. Part of that's because when you look at the statistics, week 1, if you're talking about throws of 10 or 20 or more air yards, week 1, 5 of 7, 161 yards and a touchdown on throws of 20 or more air yards. It's pretty good. Week 3, another blowout win, 8 of 9, 172, 1 touchdown on throws of 10 or more air yards. You guys just aired it out, got yards after the catch. It helped space the defense so that your rushing attack could just crucify him. Week 6, you blow out the Panthers. 139, 1 touchdown, over 20 air yards. You went 4 for 7. Those are fantastic deep passing statistics. They're fantastic. They're better than most quarterbacks in the NFL. Maybe any quarterback. I would challenge any quarterback in the NFL. You take that back to what we've seen in the last couple games, right? Let's take it back to these last 2. Against Baltimore, 1 of 3 on throws of 20 or more air yards. Now, there was a drop. Okay, I'll give you the drop.
Yeah, no, listen, I'm still mad at Tyreek for catching and then uncatching the football. There's no other explanation. He caught it and then he uncaught the football. It's like
absolutely. But then you take it back a step and go, okay, you were 5 of 12 with no touchdowns and 2 picks on throws between 10 and 20. That's uncharacteristic. Then you go back to the Dallas game and you go, here's another close one. What happened there? 1 for 4 on throws of more than 20 or more air yards. No touchdowns, 50 yards. 7 of 12 on throws of 10 or more with no touchdowns and 127, which isn't terrible, but for this offense, when you look at what you were doing earlier in the season, it's a stark contrast. I think what it underscores is that these injuries have really derailed what your offense wanted to be. What it was when it was at its peak was this team that scared defenders out of the box, forced you to cover every blade of grass because we can hit you deep. And if you try to cover us deep, we have talented players like Waddle, who has burst, and he can hit you between the numbers in the middle of the field and then carry after. We have running backs that you have Achane, who can take something out of the backfield and make yards. Or if you give him the box, Achane can make yards. What did he have? I think he averaged against Baltimore almost 8 yards a carry.
He was the only guy who was able to do anything on offense but the big story on offense for me was Raheem Mostert all year because the franchise record for touchdowns led the NFL in touchdowns up until a couple weeks ago when Christian McCaffrey took that back. But even still, he's been the biggest scoring factor for Miami.
And so this is my point. You look at what you guys were to start the year and what got you guys to where you are now, what staked you to this lead in the division race. A lot of those things are gone, or they're a shadow of what they used to be. Now, injuries are injuries. The football's a violent sport, right? Like the Bills' defense was one of the best in the entire NFL, and then we lost 3 premier playmakers. We were able to acquire players at each level that kind of helped replace and then rounded into form, and you see our defense over the last month has rounded back into the same form that we were at in the first month. And unfortunately for Miami, where you guys were in the first month, you haven't been able to replicate that into the final month of the season. And so that's what's led to this situation. I've been joking with your fellow guy over 5 Reasons Sports, Elf Artiaga. He comes on our show every week. He just did our preview show. And he was talking, I was explaining to him this thing that I've been kind of breaking his balls about all season long. That don't let us be Michael Myers. Right? You get out in front of us, it's cool. Just don't get cute. Don't try to jump over the railing, or don't take the stairs too quickly and twist your ankle, because we'll catch you. It might be slow, but we'll catch you in the end. And now here we are. We're in that moment. And you're banged up, you're hurt, you're not 100%, and here come the Buffalo Bills, who are pretty healthy, and it's gonna be something. It's almost like the worst possible scenario for you guys, and yet you're still dangerous.
Yeah, I know Miami's still dangerous. I tentatively picked them to win this game just because they're at home, and I feel like that's going to help a lot, even though half the stadium's still going to be filled with Buffalo fans, because I don't know what it is with you guys that you manage to travel everywhere you go. It's just whatever. It's like you invade everywhere.
You know what it is? People care more about seeing the Bills win than they care about making their car payment that month. That's how sick we are as a fan base. It's a disease. It's not...
Yeah, like
so this is one thing I want to ask you, because to me, when I look at the Miami Dolphins, I look at the things that are going to decide this matchup, kind of the keys to what unlock this for each team. I think that for me as a Bills fan, one of the things that concerns me the most is just knowing that even hobbled, Tyreek Hill has always given the Bills trouble. Always. Now, the last time we played you guys at the beginning of the year was the first time I've ever watched them hold him relatively in check. That's the first time in my whole life. And it came in a game where we were able to get pressure on Tua. And we were able to, catch some of the motion concepts you were throwing into the game and kind of unravel them a little bit. And that was frustrating for your play caller, and I think that McDaniels and I think that your passing coordinator really struggled with that at the beginning of the game, and then kind of caught on as the second half wore on, but it was too little too late. Now, for you offensively, I look at this and I go, you guys still have speed. You have Achane, you have Hill. You might have a Waddle who, if he's even 60%, he's still someone you have to watch. I would say this. I would caution this. If I was a coach, I wouldn't put Waddle out there because I'm in the playoffs. Do I want to win when it matters? In a game that maybe I have to go on the road, but I'd rather have a guy who's closer to 100% than risk putting a 60% player out there and getting him re-injured. And now he's gone. I can't get him back. now I know that what my playoff game plan was going to be has to be scrapped. Just the foot speed of our cornerbacks is not top notch. Our cornerbacks are good, they're big, they're long, they're physical, but shifty players tend to give them a really difficult time. And that's where I look at Achane out of the backfield. I look at Jeff Wilson out of the backfield. I look at some of your other wide receivers, and I go, this is a game where guys who are elusive and have a little bit of burst to their game could give our defensive backs some real fits. And how do you feel about that?
I mean, your theories are correct. I don't have any issues with it. But the one thing that's being overlooked is the simple fact. All that stuff is true, but it can easily be derailed by one thing. And it's exactly what you guys did in week 3, is that you guys got to Tua. But it wasn't just that you got to Tua. Part of the problem, and this is where it gets frustrating for Dolphins fans, is that if a key player ends up leaving the game for whatever reason, the whole game plan, it's like the game plan accounts for every single player all in one. And trying to replace them is very difficult for Mike McDaniel to adjust to, because it's like, he had a specific plan for this guy, specific plan for this guy, and this guy's role was this, and this guy's role was this, and this guy's role was this. And if one of them goes, it's like the whole ship just falls to pieces. So here's week 3. Connor Williams goes down. He's not coming back. Liam Eichenberg just comes in, plays center out of nowhere. And suddenly the entire offensive line crashes and burns like nothing I've seen before. And so that made a massive difference in the results of that game, because Connor Williams, he's the center. He's the anchor of that whole offensive line. And he's very, very good at blocking at center. His snaps are, but his blocking, top-notch. Pro Bowl, all-pro level blocking center. You lose that and you replace him with Liam Eichenberg, who is still looking for a spot that he can call home because he's not particularly good at anything. I'll give him this. I've got
a spot for him. It's called left bench.
Yeah.
It's where he should be playing.
Listen, I'll give him credit for being a warrior in the sense that he's playing injured. He's pushing through the pain. He's not been awful as of late. He's been all right. I'll give Butch Barry credit for making something out of nothing. I'll say that's for sure. So all that crap about how he's no good, he's a terrible person, he puts sticky notes in players' lockers and whatever. And listen, he's done a phenomenal job in Miami. That's all I care about. But there's only so much that you can do when you are trotting out Teron Armstead at his perpetual 70% at best, which, again, 70% of Teron Armstead is still pretty good. I'll give him that. You have Lester Cotton at left guard, who is a bulldozer of a run blocker, but you ask him to pass block and you're in trouble. Liam Eichenberg is still at center. Now he's just the regular starter. Again, he's not doing as bad as he was, but he's still not obviously anywhere near where Connor Williams is. And right guard, with the injury to Robert Hunt, has been just a mishmash of different people. Right now it's Robert Jones, which not somebody that I really want starting long-term for any reason. And Austin Jackson, listen, he turned himself around. He got pretty good.
I'll give you guys Jackson. I'll tell you what, your line, but that's the thing. Your line getting healthier right now might be enough, right? It might not win you the game, but it might be enough to help pick up some of the deficiencies we just talked about in your passing game.
No, yeah. As long as Tua gets time to look around and actually find his target and not have to backpedal backwards and heave it out there and pray Tyreek's down there somewhere.
Well, one of the funniest dynamics to me was this concept of people bagging on Tua. Like, I'm an Alabama fan. I watched Tua in college. When they say he's a one-read quarterback, I go, so you haven't really watched him play. You've seen box scores and you've watched some pundits say that. Now you're parroting it. What I see, though, is a guy who has no trust in that line. But can you blame him? I wouldn't. I wouldn't trust that line.
But you know why? You know why people don't want
that it started to gel for you guys. Early in the season, Austin Jackson kind of announced, like, hey, I'm a player. I'm an actual quality NFL player. Your tackles were sound. Your center, he wasn't getting bulldozed in the A and B gaps most snaps. And that changed the team's approach, and it changed what they were able to do on offense. Coming into the game, that is probably weird, because here I am, I'm thinking to myself, matchup problems. I'm looking at Eli Apple, and I'm rubbing my hands going, God, give me some of that. This guy stinks. And at the same time, I go, that's not going to be the thing that wins or loses this game is Eli Apple. It's going to be what goes on in those trenches and who wins the battle between our defensive line and your offensive line. That's it. You can boil the whole game down to that matchup. Because if we can suppress your offense and make you guys play I make the joke that it's essentially Ryan Fitzpatrick offense. When we had Ryan Fitzpatrick for the Bills, we gave him this fat contract. He had no deep threat wide receivers and no arm talent to really test a defense over the top. And as soon as safeties recognized that, every team that we played would march their safeties to 25 yards from the line of scrimmage and then creep them up after the snap. And our offense stalled for years until he had to go. Right now, that's what teams are doing to you. But it's not your fault. It's not that the scheme is broken. It's just that the talent around the scheme is either injured or just the guys in the O-line aren't giving it time to happen. If the Bills can come out and be as disruptive as I think they're capable of, then that's going to be the dynamic. And that's going to be the thing that, regardless of how well your defense plays, even if it's a low-scoring game, I would trust our team to come out with a victory if our defensive line can win for most of the night. If we can't, or if McDaniels can find a way to scheme around the aggressiveness of our front seven, that's the thing I'm also afraid of. I think that this is a game where we come out swinging and a lot of screen passes with the speed that you guys have and some of those deceptive plays with jet motion. I feel like you hit our defense with a couple of those, and that's the thing that's going to put them on their heels. You guys have more than enough weapons to keep this game close, and I think some of the angst from Dolphins fans might be a little overblown.
It might be, but nevertheless, that's why when I say that facts stop here and emotions start here, it's for many Dolphins fans, this is the game, this is the playoff game, this is the wild card round. This is the actual wild card round is not the wild card round. It's if we beat Buffalo, we're happy. If we go home wild card round. If we lose to Buffalo and go to the wild card and somehow beat Kansas City, then they're still going to be sour because it's but we lost to Buffalo. So
Now, Lewis, how old are you?
I'm 30.
Okay, I'm 38 years old. This is what the 90s rivalry was all about. Bills-Miami was more important than Super Bowls. It was more important than the playoffs. It was more important than anything. It was, I have to beat that team because I'll be damned if I lose to that team. And you've got Thurman Thomas going out there making post-game statement, getting on the podium going, I guess they didn't respect us, so we had to come in here into their house and beat that ass. They did not like each other. To this day, 13-year-old me yelling into a pillow, mad, because I remember when your linebacker there with the neck roll,
Brian Cox.
Brian Cox comes out with the middle fingers. I remember looking at my dad going, why they need to arrest him for that? My dad's like, that's not how that works. It's not how any of that works. You're allowed to flip people off. And then you guys won the game, and I was furious about it. That's the rivalry. That's the emotion, and we're back. This thing finally matters. The Bills-Dolphins games over the last 3 or 4 seasons have finally meant something. The rivalry is back, and that's this feeling that you're describing. It's this angst. It's this hey, we might not be good enough. Oh my God, what if we lose? But what if you win? That's the one thing I'm trying to say, because now that I've gotten a taste of it, and I see what that is to see the people who you view as divisional opponents, and you just vanquish them in front of everybody. And you go, yes, the New England Patriots, we embarrassed you in the most lopsided playoff victory of all time. You're done. You're dead. We conquered that thing. It's over. I now look at the Patriots like a joke. That's dead to me. Now what's left? Well, we still have this Dolphins-Bills rivalry. And I feel like it's getting closer and closer and closer, and this is your team's chance to really stake a claim to saying, look, we can give just as good as you can.
Yep. Now we just have to hope that, well, not we, me, I have to hope that it happens. defense.
Yeah,
All right.
Don't count me in that.
Yeah, I quickly corrected myself. I was like, he doesn't want the Dolphins to win. What are we talking about? All right, so let's go ahead and give our picks for the game. So, Drew, obviously, I think I know where you're going to go with this. I think we both know where we're going to go with this. But let's hear an actual explanation anyway. Who's your pick and why?
My pick, I think it's the Bills. I think that, and I'll tell you why. I think that the lack of a pass rush, a traditional pass rush, right now your best pass rushers are now interior defensive linemen. That's a bad thing for your group because Josh Allen, if you go back to last season, led the NFL in pressures that didn't result in a sack. Like he was one of the most pressured quarterbacks, but he finished like top 3 for lack of sacks. So that tells you it shows off his elusiveness, his just vision of the field, and how much he trusts his own athleticism to get himself out of trouble. Knowing that the only real presence you guys are, I'm not going to say Ogg was a slouch. We all know that Van Ginkel's a good pass rusher. I've watched it. I've talked to Elf about it every week. But they're not stars. And the problem is that without that, our tackle play is pretty good. And I think that if you guys do get A and B gap pressure, C gap pressure, you guys start pushing off the edge, it's not going to be consistent enough to really disrupt that guy. And if anything, it might even leave you open to some big plays with his legs like it did in our last matchup in December. I see this game going the way of a very close one because I do think your offense is going to be able to move the ball better than most Dolphins fans think. I think that you're going to score your points. I think that the defense is going to struggle to make some plays. I just watching the way that they were, I think that there's going to be a lot of pitch and catch. I think that your coach is smart enough to exploit the fact that Tyrell Dodson as a linebacker for the Bills isn't very quick. And he can be gotten on screens. He can be gotten on jet motion to his side. And as long as you have that, you guys are in the game because you guys are speed merchants. You have that. So I picture a game that comes down to the fourth quarter, and I just trust the fact that my quarterback's willingness to sacrifice everything to get his team into a winning position and our quarterback's proven ability. Jason Sanders is still, he saved you guys in that Cowboys game. But if I had to go kicker to kicker and quarterback to quarterback, I trust my two. And so in that way, I see this being a thing where just like our last matchup, it's a Bills field goal at the gun. It's a tough game, and we like sprint out of the stadium before the refs try to take it away from us.
Well, I'm not going to go out there and say that it's going to take the refs for Miami to win, although it would help a little bit. It will help a little bit.
Well, I'll tell you what, Alex.
If you can get some calls.
Well, here's a statistic for you and your listeners. Alex Kemp is the referee for the game. Did you know that out of all NFL officials this season, he has the most lopsided percentage of calls that go against the away team versus the home team?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah. So I've been telling fans all week, I go, guys, get ready for a redo of the Eagles game. It's gonna be the Bills versus everybody.
Listen, I'll say this. You watched that. Did you watch the Dolphins Eagles? Did you get a glimpse of the Dolphins Eagles?
Oh yeah, no, they listen, they hosed you guys too. I was like, guys, people who were screaming about it, I go, did you not watch what happened when the Eagles played them? Did you not watch what happened when the Chiefs played them? Were you not paying attention to any of this?
Yeah, that was frustrating. Yeah. Listen, forget the Chiefs. The Eagles game made me so mad. Like 10 calls on Miami and a big fat goose egg for Philly. Please give me a break. It reminds me of what the Patriots games used to be like for the Bills back during our drought era, where we just get hammered by them, and Tom Brady would look like a star, and the Bills would get penalized for. There was a game where we lost on the final play. We had it on the 5-yard line. Ryan Fitzpatrick throws a pick in the end zone. The touchdown would have won us the game. We got called for 135 yards worth of penalties in that game. The Patriots got called for 20. It was like, Jesus Christ, come on, throw me a bone. Throw me a bone here. But for 10-0 is just egregious, man. Like, you could have at least called like one false start, something.
So I will say, you guys are destined to get a little bit of help. Now, I'm not going to be one of those people who's like, oh, if we lose, it's the rest ball. But what I will say is, you guys don't be shocked. Remember this podcast, listeners. When you see a call and you know that every Bills fan in the stadium is throwing something, you're going to get at least 2 of those. I'm calling it right now.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm picking Miami to win tentatively, because again, my confidence level is not as high. I don't like. I trust Tua. I trust Tua implicitly. I think that he is left-handed Drew Brees. But understand that when you get left-handed Drew Brees, you get the benefits of that. You also get the consequences of that because Tua is not Josh Allen. Tua is not going to run around and make plays happen with his legs because that's not his game. He is Drew Brees. Drew Brees did not make a career out of running around like a crazy person with his head cut off. He is the guy who's going to stand in the pocket, snipe, and just pick you apart piece by piece until there's nothing left. But you need time for that. You need You need an offensive line who can at least keep you on your feet. Tua has. I'm sure you know this. Tua has the fastest throwing time of any quarterback in the NFL. That's been the case all season long. That's not always by design. Sometimes that's out of necessity. Like if you don't get it out there in less than 2 seconds, Tua's going to eat dirt, and that's not okay. And so that's where my frustration comes in right now. Because if Miami gets Robert Hunt back, just give me back Robert Hunt. Give me back Robert Hunt, and all of a sudden Austin Jackson will look better. Liam Eichenberg will look better, and that will make it so that whoever's at left guard, Lester Cotton or whoever it's going to be, he has Teron Armstead to help out there, and it's not going to be as terrible as I am currently foreseeing. I need to see Robert Hunt play football. I need to see Robert Hunt back.
And here's the other thing that's killing you guys. Like I'm looking at this now, like last week, Tyreek Hill, we were all bagging on Stephon Diggs for looking like he's not Stephon Diggs. He averaged 4.4 yards of separation, which is like outside the top 15 in the NFL. If you take a look at this, Tyreek Hill had 2.3 yards of average separation against Baltimore. That's just not, like, it should be physically impossible to cover him like that, which tells you how far from 100% he is. So that does, to your point, put the pressure on the offensive line to buy time for these skill players to get open. The Bills have had the benefit of having a healthy offensive line. That's given because our wide receivers don't separate well. That's why I don't look at the Eli Apple thing as the thing that's going to cost you guys the game, is because our wide receivers don't naturally separate well. It's been on our line, giving our quarterback time to work through progressions and allow guys time to work open down the field. That's really been the key to our offense the last month. And so with that in mind, if you guys can get Hunt back, it really is a boon to everything you guys want to do here.
It's all about the trenches, man. Like if
Miami, that's it. That's the matchup.
If next season, after all is said and done, Miami decided to just keep all the weapons on offense, just don't make any changes. If you want, bring back Robbie Chosen, bring back Braxton Berrios, bring back Cedric Wilson. I don't care. Leave all the weapons the same. Every single draft pick, every single free agent pickup needs to be somebody on the offensive line. Every single one of them. Get rid of. I don't care what you have to let go of on defense. I don't care if you have to get rid of maybe you get rid of Cedric Wilson. I don't care. We got wide receivers. That's not the issue. I want an offensive line. I want one that I can count on. Teron Armstead, listen, I love the dude. He's great. He's at 70% perpetually if he's not out. But Isaiah Wynn was okay when he was in. Also injury prone as all get out. Give me a left guard. Connor Williams, want to come back? You got to earn it. You got to earn it again. Sorry, dude, you got hurt. Now we got to get you on a discount. I'm cruel like that. This is the NFL, the business.
But for all your fans who were furious during the offseason when they were talking, everyone was mad at Chris Gier because they said, "Oh my God, he keeps telling us Austin. He keeps selling us Austin Jackson. He doesn't know what he's talking about." Who looks smart now?
Still us. Well, it's still us, bro.
but I'll say this. He's doing what he can because he knew what he had to trade away to get Tyreek. He knew that, hey, cornerback's a thing. Like, we didn't know Jalen Ramsey was going to be available. So we had to pick a cornerback because we need the future of this position. Oh, wait, there's a guy. Well, we'll just go get that guy. We'll just go get him. And now we have a plethora of these guys. He was doing the pragmatic thing where you're drafting replacement players for the future now, grooming them, letting them grow into roles. This is how you build a program. This is how you build a program.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't do what the Jets have been doing, and you draft where every single class needs 5 guys to hit, or else your team is in trouble. What you do is you find out what positions matter the most to your franchise, and you start stocking them with talent. Then you find cheap replacement players everywhere else, and then you pick and choose in the draft, best player available. You're eventually going to fall into a linebacker. You're going to fall into a safety. But that's how you build a team and then a roster that has depth. Miami hasn't had depth in 4 years. Your GM is doing what he can to try to keep you competitive now and in the future. And this was the year where he said we can get by with a boatload of backup quality players on offensive line because our scheme can support that. No one was picturing Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle both getting hurt at the same time. So now the scheme is going to struggle to support that if the line can't protect him. That's why it's so crucial to the outcome of this game. I think that your offensive line, our defensive line, and just the will of each quarterback is going to be the two things that solve this entire. That's it. You can simplify the whole thing and boil it down to just that.
And I honestly agree with you. All right, Mr. Drew, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Once again, great talk. Who knows? We might end up having another talk right next week after this.
We might be doing this next week. That's the crazy thing. We might be doing this next week.
We would have, if we had the crazier thing. That's exactly what happened last year. Except like we weren't talking yet. It's like, that's exactly what happened last year.
Yeah, and it'll be different. And then of course, that's the worst part. If you're the team that's thinking, well, maybe I'll see him next week, do you hold anything back? Because if you're the team that already knows you're in the playoffs, you know you're in the playoffs. If you're the team that just needs to win, how does your desperation level make you go to places that the other team can't? Will you just empty the clip, as they say, instead of holding something back for the playoffs, and then you see that team again the next week?
This is true. All right. That's going to be it for this show. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. Make sure you go check out Drew and his crew at Rockpile Report. And he's got other... What other stuff are you on?
Well, Rockpile Report, we have our Rockpile Report podcast, which is Bills-centric. I know you guys don't give a damn about that, but we do an AFC East Roundup podcast every week. Elf Artiaga from 3 Yards Per Carry and 5 Reasons Sports joins us every single week to talk about Dolphins, and we give him a fair shake. The whole purpose of the podcast is that we're interested to get the takes of podcasters and fans and bloggers and beat reporters who represent every single team each and every week over the course of the season, to get an idea of not just what we as fans are going through with our own team, but see how life is on the other side of the fence and give ourselves a little perspective in the process. Everybody who listens says it's a great time, which is why we keep doing it. If you want to check that out, you can find us on Google, Stitcher, anywhere all your podcasting
Get it where you get your podcasts.
Anywhere you get them.
All righty. So that's going to be it. Make sure you go to prizepicks.com, use that promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. And click the links in the description of this video below, and you'll be able to get bonus items when you make your purchases of either Super Mario Brothers RPG or Super Mario Brothers Wonder, both awesome games for you to try out. That's going to be it. We will see you. There will be next week. There will be Miami's in the playoffs regardless, but we will see you next week for more Fins Nation.